requirements of the fire trucks in the town of Sullivan?
No, sir.
Do you know what we look for when we go to an alarm in the town of Sullivan?
No, sir.
Then at what point is the fire department asked to come in and give you that information?
Because he is going to submit to you.
At what point is the fire department asked to come in and give you that information? All this has to be done by October 1st. So at
Not
what point am I to come in and do this?
No, not necessarily, sir. That's up to the town board. That's not our.
Well,
We're under.
when you go to give a suggestion to the town board, you want all of your I's dotted and your T's crossed,
That is
correct?
very true.
Then you should be contacting the fire
They
chief to come in
wanted-
and give you those answers.
If you'd let me finish, sir.
Well, I'm interrupting you like you interrupt everybody else, so go ahead and finish, I'll let you.
Chief, we don't need this sort of
Well,
exchange.
How about in the September 5th, or the October 4th meeting, August 4th, you asked him for a copy of plans and drawings for the fire department. Where are they?
We haven't got them yet.
He handed you a whole bunch of stuff back.
Not that you could use yet. They're not complete.
I can use anything I can get my hands on at this point.
Okay.
Because I've been trying since July to get with him, to go and do.
Sir, did you notify us that you would take any plans even if they weren't complete?
I've
did you
never
notify us?
never had to deal with anything like this before, and neither has the town. I didn't know
Okay,
that
then I'm
you use
telling
the
you
fire
what-
department as such a big pawn to get your hands on stuff. I'm here because I watched your videos and you're using us as a large pawn to get your hands on information. I'm the guy that can give you the answers of what you're looking for fire trucks. I'm retired, I live 1,000 steps from that front door.
Okay?
I
You're
have
gonna
not
have
been
ample
contacted
time to
once.
react to this.
Well, I'm not.
You'll have ample time to do that. That is something.
All I'm worried about is you interrupting what I'm trying, a rapport I'm trying to make with Jeff, because I've been trying to get in and do a safety walkthrough.
Have we stopped that?
No.
No,
we
I'm
haven't
gonna
stopped
explain
that
why.
at all.
I'm gonna explain why. Okay, he's jumping through all these hoops for you for fire department stuff. And all of a sudden, the fire department starts coming through and asking, hey, we wanna do this, we wanna do this.
Asking who?
Mr. Taylor.
That's fine, you can do that.
You can do it.
You
But
should
the
have
whole,
done it.
I understand, but let me.
Why
he's
didn't you do
getting-
it already?
He's getting lambasted from you.
Why
And
didn't you do it already, chief?
I have asked, and I'm gonna tell you
Why
why.
didn't you go in and do it?
I'm gonna tell you why, let me finish.
Let you finish? Because I thought Frank was talking when you cut him off about 7 times.
Yeah.
And we have the videotape of that too, chief.
That's fine, I understand that, but I've tried to contact him, so he's gonna be leery, because he's giving you all the information, now all of a sudden the fire department's contacted. So it's a double-edged sword, so it's eggshells that we're playing with. My whole concern is if you're asking for information, just call me and ask me, I am available.
It's not his
No,
job.
24/7,
It's not the planning
365.
board job.
It's not the
asked me-
planning board's
listen,
job to
listen
get
me.
information.
I've been here at every meeting, Frank's been here, Jeff's
Yeah.
been here. We talked about this at the very first meeting. We laid that out, and the person who's the applicant should go out and get these letters, and he did get a letter from a different fire department,
Yes.
that was fine.
Yep.
We said, let's get
Yep.
the one that responds. And he was able to get a letter, how did he do
Yes.
that? But it came, and that's fine, but then the letter itself said, please take note, we're not the ones that are gonna respond
Right.
here. So chief, I ask you, why didn't you do a letter yet?
Why haven't I done a letter yet?
That's what I'm asking.
Because I've been trying to get in touch with him to do my walkthrough, to do a pre-plan.
How hard is that? It's right
That's
there.
on your side of the fence.
And I know that's on my side of the fence. I'm here, you've asked for copies of plans. When do I get that, and when does the fire department
That's
come
good. We
involved
don't
in
know
this
that.
process?
We don't know that yet ourselves.
Well, when does the fire department come involved in the process
As
here?
soon as we get plans that we think are final looking plans, we'll give them to you.
Because I'm the guy with the information that you're gonna need.
That's
Well-
great. We think that, and that's
So,
why we're sending them to you,
I'm-
sir.
I'm-
And Frank,
like I
it's
said,
already
very
built, this
available.
thing is already there, it exists, it's right there. The chief or anybody from his department can take their equipment anytime they want, that's not up to
No, we
us to
can't.
do.
No, we
They
can't.
can go in there with his permission and they could get the
Yes.
letter, just, how did the other fire department get us a letter?
Because it was somebody that Jeff knew and he asked that would come in and do it.
Oh,
That's how it
Jeff
went.
knew.
It was somebody
Okay.
that he knew that
Okay.
was
Okay.
very knowledgeable, he's been in the fire
Very
service longer than I
honest.
have in the town of Sullivan. So, and I've got 40 years here.
I respect
Okay,
it, chief.
so the other
And
guy's
we
got more
respect
time
what
than
you
I
do
do.
for
I
us.
totally respect what you're
And
doing.
I know
But
what
chief,
that
you came
happened.
out with guns ablazing on my
Well,
chairman.
I do have guns ablazing.
I see that.
Watch the tape.
But I'm afraid you're shooting out, there's no game out there, okay?
What I wanna,
What
just
you
wanna
got?
know, when projects come forward, and I've been screaming this back when John Gladney was supervisor,
Okay?
the fire departments are never contacted in any part of this
They
process.
should be,
And they're not, they haven't
okay?
been.
We totally agree. totally agree, and that has been in every meeting. These plans need to go to the first
Yes, and you've been
responders.
asking for copies of those.
That's right, but we don't have complete plans.
Okay,
When we do,
I'm
You'll
a
get
phone
it.
call away. I'm a phone
You'll
call
get
away,
it.
and I'm available 24/7, 365.
you'll get them, and you'll have your opportunity to react and
I
whatever.
can come over
Now,
whenever you're available.
for you to enter Mr. Taylor's property,
That's between me and him.
that's not our fault.
I understand it, and I know
Okay,
that.
that's
We're,
fine.
we're working on that, and that's gonna happen. It's just a matter of,
Okay,
I can
Frank.
see his getting blasted from both sides here.
Frank, for the record, I've been doing this for 31 years. This is all I do for a living,
Mhm.
okay? So I'm giving you my opinion as a person very experienced in this area. I work for probably 40 boards, planning and zoning boards. In no instances does the planning board ever have to go out and contact the fire department for a letter. They ask the applicant to do that. It's the most common thing in the world because the applicant controls the information. Planning board doesn't have any information under its control most of the time. So we put that onto the applicant, it's in letters that we've written. So the idea that, why wasn't this done early is a question that should be directed to the applicant, not to the planning board. With all due respect, Chief, and I do respect what you do, please believe us.
Yes,
We know each other, we've
Yes.
had
Oh,
nice
yeah.
conversations, so,
it's just,
as soon as we get a plan that we feel is the most accurate plan we can come up with, and it's got everything that we want on it, that you can react, then you can react to everything. And that will definitely be
I don't
a
wanna be-
recommendation to the town board.
I don't wanna be the cog that holds all this up.
No,
I don't wanna be that
no,
part of the wheel, cause
no.
I'm available.
Timing, that's, timing, how this
24/7.
is all gonna work out timing wise, we can't answer that.
Okay. I just don't wanna be
No.
the wheel that holds all this up, so
No.
as soon as you need anything,
We're not under a time,
Oh.
we're not being told you gotta get this done in 60 days, sorry.
I don't wanna be the cog that holds this up.
Okay,
So if
You
there's
hear that?
anything as far as restrictions or questions that you have about where we can and can't get access to, call me.
you'll have an opportunity, you'll
Well,
definitely have an
And
opportunity.
in the future, for large things like this that
And
go
what we
on,
have done in the past,
it would be
which we
very,
have done.
very nice to be involved
We
in the
usually work
process
through
somewhere along
we
the way.
usually work through Mr. Kendall, but we have done it.
Well, go to the fire chiefs,
Okay.
cause it'll get much more and it'll get disseminated down through all three departments properly.
Mhm.
So, and that hasn't happened in the past,
Okay,
so. Good night.
have a good day. Okay, and you folks are?
Brian and Susan Key, we're neighbors.
Okay, alright. We didn't turn anybody else away, but this really is not a public meeting for,
well, it's a public meeting,
it's a public meeting,
it's
but
not a
not.
public hearing.
Yeah, but where I'm going with this is, I don't really have a problem with them staying, because we've got room and we can do that. But if we had masses, and that's what we didn't know, we'd turn them away because it is advertised that this is being streamed,
Understood.
okay? So, I mean, we don't, unless the board has another concern, I would say you can sit there, but this is not a public hearing, and we're not seeking comments. Okay? All right. Jeff, come on up, or get somewhere here that's closer. All right, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go down through, we're trying to see if we got, just like everything else, what we have here. We've asked, and we've been very consistent with everything that we've asked for as far as, what are you giving us?
That's the.
Okay, done all the plan, okay, alright, got it. And so we're trying to get that package together so that can be evaluated, alright? So let's go down through, why don't you hand out papers kind of as we go, and then,
Okay.
then
No,
we
I have that.
can do that.
I just got it.
Okay.
So.
Alright, so here's, we were trying to get a complete application, okay? And a complete application has three basic parts. It has the primary development plan, in other words, what's the objective of this project? What are you really asking to do? what are the parameters, et cetera, in there. And it appears to me that you have done something. Now, that means that we aren't gonna be able to read this in the next 30 seconds, okay? But you have turned that in. So, okay, and we can kind of put a little check that that's here. We asked for a completed full secret, which you did give us, okay? You gave us, in the August meeting, you gave us that, and that's in the file. Now, that will be evaluated by the town board, not us. We're not lead agency, okay? Then the next thing is the site map, and that seems to be a bone of contention with some individuals. But we need that, when you get all done, everything that kind of boils down, or let's say 90% of it is gonna be on that site map, okay? And that's what we've gotta make sure. So as we go down through things tonight, we'll talk about maybe a few things here, but maybe some other things will come up too. And so that's what we really gotta have, is the most accurate site map that we can, because that is what the agreement of what you're offering and what the town board, if they accept it, that's what they're going to accept, okay? So everything needs to be there, that's critical. And right now, we're not quite there yet with site plan, okay? So, some things that we need to talk about. One of them is the manure pit, okay? Now, we need to get some kind of storage for this manure, and have that, whatever we wanna call it, a pit. You got here a bin, proposed bin. You got the same map. Here, guys, I think I've got more copies of that. Yeah, who can share? Here, you can share. I think, I'm not sure whether
Not blocking the
that's,
camera.
that one's up. Okay, you got Jeff, you got one in front of you too, right?
Yep.
Okay. Well, one of the things is this, on this map, is the location of the manure pit. Let's see if we can figure this one out. Now, there is no broad brush townwide legislation on manure pits. But in one of our laws that deals with domestic animals, which were not here, is that manure pit, it needs to be 50 feet from the line or something of that nature. And whatever. So that would be a minimum. That would probably, I'd just throw that out to the board. But also, do you really want a manure pit that is visible here? You're right up next to these neighbors. Can't we find a place to put that manure pit back in here in a little bit and get it out? You've got, now, one of the things, you've got this fence all the way around, right? Isn't there a fence around these properties? The residential, the new, right here? Isn't this a fence?
This is a wooden.
It's a fence. Right.
I'm like, sorry,
This
I'm
is
just
new.
trying to look.
This is
Yeah,
new.
yeah, this is all wooden fence that I put up. Really nice fence.
It's a fence.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what is a little hard, how far off the line, how far off the neighbor's line is the fence?
The fence,
Yeah.
I believe 5 or 6 feet.
Okay, well that, on your map, that really ought to be shown, because we don't have, this looks like, somebody would look at this and they'd say, this is Newton's property. Well, it really isn't, right? The property line should be.
Well, there's no
some-
fence here.
There's no fence in here. Well, then this is another thing, go back when you're doing your notes, this needs
This
to be
shows
shown.
a fence.
Yeah,
This
But
shows
it-
it off the property line right there.
Yep.
And this fence, there is a little bit, but I'm sure in the scale, that's showing the line where the fence is. That is probably actually the scale where that fence goes through. See, the wood fence is not right on the line. It is just off the line.
this is the wood fence right here?
Yes.
This
right-
is what,
is white.
this
This
is
is white.
proposed, this is the proposed curtain.
This is a wire fence.
This is the wire fence.
Yeah, this is a wire fence.
But didn't you tell me there's a wooden fence through here?
Where this line is where it's labeled wood fence. where it's labeled wood fence.
All right, you need to get the dimensions, the heights of the wood fences. Now, again, one of the things, and some of this, Jeff, we were kind of talking out loud, is that this is in a business zone. So, a lot of things, the planning board can kind of decide how high the fence would be, as far as I know, even though some, in a residential area, maybe it can only be 6 feet high. If the
The
planning
fence is
board,
already
if,
there,
if,
it's 8 feet
Pardon?
high. The fence is already there, it's 8 feet high, because that's, U.S. Department
Right.
of Agricultural Regulations, because this fence
Okay.
keeps animals in, and this fence around the
right,
entire
well,
perimeter
that
is 8
needs to
feet
be
high.
indicated on it, but I'm saying, we're not saying that's a problem. We're just saying that in this particular, this is not a residence, but part of
That
this
fence has
now
been
is
there
all
for
gonna
5
be,
years.
when you get done with this project, or this gets approved, this is all gonna be commercial.
Correct.
So, the heights of the fences and things of that nature, I think would be acceptable to, what you're saying, 8 foot, et cetera. But that really ought to be indicated somewhere on there.
So
Okay.
just put a
That-
line that says 8-foot fence.
Yeah,
Just legend over
Yeah,
it.
Sure.
fence 8 feet and just.
I mean, I could just put a legend off, like a line off. and
yeah,
say 8-foot
mark
fence.
those things, so you got fence all the way around. What
Let
are
them
those?
right on the-
What are
Just
those
right
fences?
down
on
here
one of the maps,
where it says
yeah.
wood fence.
We can make notes right on this, if you oughta.
As long as all the fences
Yeah,
are
do
eight,
you
right?
want a pen or?
I've got a
pencil here that you're saying. Okay.
Then I can get the changes out of it.
Yeah, if we need anything else like more paper, let us know.
Okay, thank you. If you wanna use that one, you use that
Yeah.
one.
Well, I already marked some stuff on here.
All right, go ahead, do it. Mark it down.
Forest,
Okay, so
fence.
we need to get the height,
All of the fences 8 feet or.
And you oughta-
They're
you're-
all 8 feet
Okay.
except for the fence.
and you ought to indicate where there are residences. Like here, okay?
Why
What-
am I responsible for the neighbor's residence marked on the map? I wasn't told at any
No,
point in
no,
time.
well, the only one you've got is, there's a house in here, right?
They're all labeled where the people, where
Okay,
they are.
all right.
I mean, that's.
But then you'd have to show, how far off their line are you?
5
in other words-
feet. I mean, the
okay.
fence, like I said, these fences are not new. These fences have been there for
Okay, so
70
we're telling
years,
you,
5 years,
you
whatever,
need
since I've
to, you
owned
need
it.
to indicate how far off their property line those fences are.
You could scale that, right? I mean,
I mean, that's,
That's-
I thought there's a scale there.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
it's,
mean,
what's the,
But write it
does
down.
look like- yeah.
Get it written down on there,
what's the purpose?
because we asked you to do
I
that.
think it's to memorialize.
But
like,
I mean,
what-
I'm just
what we
asking, but
have.
these are suggestions, right? We're passing it to the town board. I don't necessarily, I mean, I'm
Well,
here.
You can add that. to
I'm
your
doing
recommendation.
things that I
That's
didn't
all right, we'll
agree
put it
to.
in our recommendations, Jeff.
That's fine. Yeah,
Okay.
that's
It looks-
fine.
All right, if
It
you
looks
don't
to
choose
me
to
like,
do it.
it looks to me like it's pretty consistent, well, you know,
It is.
what it is. So I mean, basically just say,
I mean,
you know,
along
10
this-
feet,
this-
6 feet here, 5 feet here, something like that. I mean, it's,
I
don't
thought
have to-
since like the beginning of time with maps and legends, like scales are for that purpose.
Yeah, well, all we're asking for is a note that somebody can look at it and say, hey.
That's,
this
that
is-
scale right there, that's supposed to be, that's 100 feet. So that right there is 20 feet. That's gonna be a pretty hard scale. Just write it on there.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, let's move on. If you don't choose to do it, you don't choose. We've got it documented, we've asked you for that.
Okay.
All right? And we'll put that in our recommendations. All right, now the manure pit. Folks, what are you thinking here?
Where is it right now?
Right here.
30 feet off the property line.
It's-
There's a gravel driveway. I mean, this is all.
And you couldn't push that back, what was the issue last time?
There's a gate. I'm looking right here. Right here's a gate to get in. So you can't push it in front of the gate.
Why can't it be
and
on the
there's-
back side of the gate?
That would not make any sense because then you'd have staff having to open a fence containing animals.
Well, you'd have
But
to.
like for security purposes.
You'd have to do a little
Can
something different.
I ask one thing that like?
Sure.
I'm being respectful. Can I finish saying what I'm saying before I get interrupted constantly? I want to be here. I want to be respectful to you guys, but I want to be able to get
Okay,
to
go ahead.
talk through. This gate here contains the bison, the yak, the elk. It wouldn't serve a safety purpose to constantly open this gate. I don't know.
I agree.
A lot of people work with employees. It's hard finding good employees. we have great employees, but people still, it's not
I agree, but
necessary
then,
to open gates 50 times a day, because there's a chance they don't shut the gate and we don't
but
wanna
you'd
take
have
that
to
chance.
reconfigure something else in here, so that this you could have this as a gate, but you'd also have to have this secured, so you'd
It
have
is
another
secured
gate.
now,
And
but
put-
it's an animal enclosure,
Put the,
like, why you
put the manure pit out of sight behind this fence.
inside the animal enclosure, the point is to take manure out of animal enclosures, just like.
But
on a
you're not
farm.
going out there and pick that up. That manure comes mainly from the wild,
So
is it
why am
not?
I adding manure into an animal enclosure
Okay,
where you
Jeff.
have issues with
We're
parasites?
gonna tell you that's what we're gonna tell you to do, okay? We're moving on.
Why can't I suggest, like, Frank, this is,
I-
you're not
I-
a dictator here, like, this is what we're supposed, there's a board around you. I wanna come and talk, I have a spot that I'd like to propose moving it to, but you don't give me a chance to
Well,
suggest a spot
what's
where
different
I'm
than
willing
this,
to.
Jeff? Isn't that what you're proposing?
No, I said that I wanted to, I told you
Where
on
is
the
it?
phone that I wanted to propose moving it, and I
All right,
marked it on
well,
the
let's
map,
hear
but
it.
you won't ever give me a chance to say what I wanna say. I propose moving it right here, so I'll get the diagram of the manure. So right now, it would be like this. So you'd pull in from, this is like this. So you'd back in here with the gators and dump it.
But
That's-
it's located right there. The manure pit, right?
Yes, I'm trying to explain to you. for a
No,
second.
I'm asking you, is it located right there?
Clearly it is, but I'm telling you, like, that's why I came here with notes written down with an arrow before. I wanted to ask you guys, before I have Forrest change it on the map,
Okay.
I wanted to find out if you guys thought that it was okay, and then I would have him add it to the map.
Show us
But
where
I
it's
haven't had a
going.
chance. So my proposal was, basically, you gotta still get into this gate, is I was gonna move it over here, and that way they can back in. It has the fence behind it. I bought these concrete blocks, they're nice, you stack them, they look good.
Yep.
And then we're probably 80, 70 feet away from the property line. I
Okay.
thought that was like a fair compromise,
Okay.
and that way it's over there.
Can't you,
It's-
can you even have it so that you enter it from this end?
What
Not-
makes good-
well, I mean, then we're creating turning and radiuses with a barn there with a skid steer and chances of hitting the barn where there's plenty of room to
Yeah,
pull in. What?
Is all this manure being brought over here with a skid steer?
No, with gators. We dump.
Oh, but you're just
buckets.
talking, but this scale here, on this scale, you did it, you're probably, you got at least, probably what, 20, 40 feet, 50 feet?
It's more. It's probably at least 50 feet.
Yeah,
Is that gonna be fenced in the front as well?
No, I mean it's open. It's a concrete pad.
Right, but I'm
With
saying-
it, with this is open.
So I'm saying this is
There's
gonna
a
be.
fence behind it.
Right,
That's the nice 8-foot fence. What we do is I've got
Is
these.
this a fence?
No, that's the driveway.
Okay, but so that's gonna be open to the view from, people driving in and such?
No, no,
Okay.
the driveway's over
Okay,
here.
well,
So there's a long area
Here.
across the lawn, and there's a mound that you can't
Okay.
even see it. I mean, it's like putting it there.
system in there.
Yeah, there's the septic, yeah. So you wouldn't see that from the road.
Right.
It's,
And
and
then the house
it's,
is right
it's
there.
easy to use, it's
Okay.
easy to clean out. The easier it is,
That's better.
That's good,
It's
yeah.
better.
It's
So
away-
this is
it's
where
away
we need
from
the
house,
dimension
yeah.
on there now.
Yeah,
it's right,
okay.
yeah, yeah.
So we're not gonna rely on scale, put an actual dimension.
Yeah, I will. I just wanted to
whatever,
make sure it was okay for you
62 feet,
guys.
6 inches, wherever it is, exactly.
put it off
on
there.
that. Cause nobody's gonna go scale that off, put it where it is. And try to get that to scale too, the enclosure, as much as you can. Okay? And what you
Well,
have
this,
drawn the
I
scale.
think you guys have one of these.
Okay. So we can
Okay,
move.
if you could check, I
Okay,
don't
that's
know.
a concrete pad you're gonna pour?
This is just the design of it. It's
That's
basically,
interlocking blocks?
you know, like those blocks that they make at the concrete place. I think when they have
Yeah.
extra concrete at the end of the day.
Build the retaining wall.
Yeah, you build a retaining wall,
yeah,
so it's a
yeah.
3-side retaining wall with a pad, and then it's easy to scoop. It keeps it cleaner, so that it's
Okay, so it's gonna be open in the front, open to the front,
enclosed.
and closed on the
sides.
two ends in a block, you're not pushing up against the fence, you're putting in a block
The
wall.
block wall, but it'll be up to the fence, so the block wall
Yeah.
is set against the fence.
Is that,
Yeah.
okay,
That's-
all right,
that's-
good.
That's what we wanted to do. We moved
Okay.
it.
I agree.
So we say about
I
70 or
appreciate
so feet away roughly?
I'll measure it.
Approximately
What if,
70.
what if, but he'll come back with a dimension and then he'll show
I'll
it to us.
measure it.
And we'll look at the actual and
I'll-
see where,
I'll see where it fits.
Okay, no.
because there's-
You don't wanna come back and it's 38 feet, cause we've said 7.
Right.
Should
No,
be
I mean,
more.
just-
Well, I mean,
7.
it's well, he says, I'm saying it's more than 50 feet, but I'll measure it.
Alright, measure them and have them scaled, so.
Yeah, this would definitely be more than,
I bet it's actually
Wait,
more
I
than
can
70.
find
but I
from
don't
the
wanna
property
s-
line?
So 1 inch is 100?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's what it is,
I mean, I could-
inches on
I
it.
gotta scale it, I can just do it.
But I think what you guys are trying to achieve is that you're trying to
About half
get
an inch,
that,
about 50
that
feet,
manure
yeah.
pit
Yeah, it's.
further
Well,
off
I'm
from the
saying-
residential
right
property
from
line
what
Oh,
at
yeah.
there,
for the
that,
benefit
you
of
know.
a surrounding neighbor, and he
Right,
looks like
that's
he's
it.
got the room, and now he's offering to make
Right,
some
he's doing
movement.
it.
And that's
Moving
the,
it away.
yeah,
Yep, okay.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
that's good.
Okay, so now,
Where else?
Okay, now, and that construction will be, you're gonna have it so, and how often are we gonna unload that?
as needed,
What's as needed mean?
as
Once a
needed,
week, twice a week.
possibly 2 times a week if there's more manure, or possibly 3 times a week, or if it doesn't accumulate, I mean, we clean it all the time, I mean, it's.
What if we, what
if
if we
it's
said,
full, I clean it, I mean, it's
what
not.
if we said minimally twice a week?
That's a little excessive, because what's the point in cleaning it for like a third of a dump truck?
But you just got
full?
through saying you'd clean it twice a week or 3 times.
I said it changes depending on
Well, I
what
know, but I mean-
the hard thing for me to believe is you used to be a farmer, and you, like I feel like you'd understand where I'm coming from. Like it generates at
I do,
different points in
and
time.
and part of that
and
is
for one,
because
this
I do.
manure, this is mainly
Because-
shavings and straw. Like
Because-
we clean maintenance wise, zoo is different than a farm or anything else. A lot of times we're cleaning clean shavings. We're cleaning up just constant, day to day,
Yep.
doing everything we can to provide the highest animal care. A lot of it's clean. There's no smell to it. Certain days are clean days, certain days, it's
Your
gonna
weather
fill, but I mean,
conditions,
I don't.
your weather
I-
conditions are gonna change, there's gonna be a whole bunch of things, but what we're
My,
trying
my
to.
problem is when you put a label on it of these guys right here are a nightmare for me. The cops have had to be called twice. Yesterday this is besides, I just wanna give you the keys, they've been respectful, I appreciate that, but these guys are harassing me, and it's gonna turn into, if you put 2 times a week in there, if I go a week with just doing it once, you're gonna get calls, it's gonna be a nightmare. I mean, the guy yesterday, I pressed charges for harassing my animals with his 4-wheeler, and I had a black buck run into a fence and hurt its leg. It's getting out of hand.
So the reason that we do this, to be fair to you
It's-
and everybody else, Jeff, is it's difficult in the world we live in now unless we have measurable things to look at after we give the approval, so that there's never a dispute. So that what we're trying to do is balance your need not to be doing excessive removal of manure, because we understand that, what your point is, that's taken and understood, balanced against the idea that there's gotta be something measurable, because if we leave it to, if the answer is I'll take care of it when it needs to be, that's in the eye of the beholder, and that's where it gets weird, and we
Wow.
have to get complaints from
Once a
neighbors
week then, is once a
So-
week.
We can do once a week.
Once a week.
No greater
So
than
once a
once a
week.
week.
So what you're
that's all.
saying.
No,
more-
no
no
less-
less-
no less
no
than.
less
Yeah.
than, yeah, no
Once-
less than
no
once a
less.
week.
So what you're saying is the more movement you have around that pit, the more problems you have with the neighbor.
It's awful. They're out there taking pictures of my staff. Like the girls that work for me, they feel uncomfortable. It's gotten completely out of control. I'm frustrated, and I'm not blaming anybody, but this guy over there, they're drunks. They harass me
All right, well,
all
we
the
don't
time.
wanna,
Okay.
we don't wanna, I don't,
It's
we
upset-
don't
well,
wanna
I'm
get
on
into that
record.
kind of
I
stuff.
mean, you
Okay.
need to.
Well-
It's become out of control.
I'm not,
I mind my own business.
We're,
I'm
we,
trying
we,
to-
we make no comments here. Okay, all right, that would be acceptable. Like John said, there's a basic parameter that's not unreasonable to do that. But the whole intent is that, I know, you talk about a manure pit, I don't care if you clean it. It's still, unless you wash it down, and now you got another problem, if you wanna wash it, now what are you gonna do with that? But, you're talking flies, you're talking whatever else, so that probably would be reasonable,
and we'll
once a
do it
week.
more often if needed, so one
Yeah,
time a
yeah,
week is a
the
guaranteed
thing is, you
minimum,
gotta
Once a
more,
week is-
more
once a
as
week
the
is
business
guaranteed.
demands.
Flies and parasites aren't good for animals. I don't want them there, so it's not like
Sure.
I'm gonna have it stay there. It's not.
And the manure's great for that.
Well, now you got a measurable thing that we can that we can
Okay.
add, okay, so
All
now
right.
we can,
Now,
the next
there's another
part.
thing. Where's the tiger cage?
Right here, animal enclosure.
That should be on there.
It is. It says animal enclosure. It's not species specific
So,
because
yeah,
I
yeah.
rotate animals from.
This whole thing is there, I thought that building was animal
That's
enclosure.
their house. This is the enclosure.
Okay, all right. I mean, that's one thing, and I think we're not gonna get into the business of which animal goes where.
No,
That's
no.
none of our business, but if he's saying this is an animal enclosure and it has a building and he can put whatever animal he's gonna put into it subject to
Okay,
the permitting authorities, then,
all right,
then you at least it's on the map.
Okay.
You have that.
all right. We talked about the fences. Down the road here a little bit further, when we can talk about dust. We'll jump ahead here. Where did you offer to put in the asphalt tailings?
I said that as much as I have a hard time with saying it because it's been dry, the dust, they don't deal with dust, but right through here, I said I would put the asphalt millings around the back because that's our path.
That's your pathway, right?
As I gave you guys the traffic flow, just a general diagram. I think you guys have it. I don't.
Well, put that on your, why don't you just
Yeah,
put
we
that,
have
just put that on your map as the general flow of traffic for the safari. And I think that's reasonable, if you put some tailings in it, that's probably where, if there are stuff, that's where most of it's gonna come from.
Oh, there's the.
Could be.
And then I also.
Your car's leaving out.
I talked to the Keys after the meeting. They said that they deal with a little bit of dust through here, and I just said that I would put the millings down in that corner
Sure.
too to try to mitigate some dust. But
Okay.
I mean,
And
as
I
a
think-
whole, they're trying to say they deal with dust. This safari out here, cars going 5 miles an hour. We've had the driest year ever. There's no dust out there.
Okay. But I think you got, this one, there'll have to be some kind of a statement that will be made.
Where's it gonna be again? Can you point that out real quick?
What's that?
The
Remember,
millings
please?
where you talked to your neighbor about where some of the millings could
Oh, I
go.
just said like this corner where we drive through the
Okay,
walk.
so that's let me see directions here. It's okay, the northeast
the
corner.
northeast. I mean, I don't wanna have, like, part of everything, but most likely, I'm gonna put millings across the whole parking lot just to make it look better, because much as we battle, like, I like things to look nice, I try to do
Sure,
things
and you
first
do a good
class.
job with
Bringing
that.
people from all over the state and the country, I want it to look good, so
Sure.
eventually but for now, I would propose,
Okay.
I'll have them shade it.
Is it,
That's
Board,
what
are
we're
you,
gonna have.
are you comfortable with that?
Oh,
Have
yeah.
it shaded and then
Okay.
labeled and that's.
Shade that in and,
that'll do it.
show that,
That'll be where the
indicate
millings
that that'll be tailings. And then there'll probably be an additional statement would say, if the situation arises of dust, then you're responsible for that, and your mitigation would probably be sprinkler. The easiest one.
Or a water truck or something.
You have to figure out how to do that, but I don't know how else at this point, so that
I
means,
just,
that
we've
means
had
the
probably
issue-
the driest year in a long time, that hasn't
Yep.
been an issue, so I don't foresee it, but if it ever became an
Sure.
issue, I'd water it.
Well, over time, unless you do something, it'll become cumulative,
Yeah.
you can't help that,
Okay.
that part, okay? So, and on that map, again, we still haven't left the map really. We talked about the fences, the heights, things of that nature, okay? Anything else at this moment that we want on that diagram?
Okay, there's gonna be no lighting at all for the safari?
There's no specific safari lighting, no.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay,
it's right
now,
on the
if you have a
houses and-
special event or a night event, and you need to, haven't you in the past, rented lights?
I have, but I don't, I mean, I have general barn lights that will light it up enough, that are just there as the property. But I don't I won't use one of those, because I know in the past that the neighbors it was kind of bright for them and loud, so I figured that with the
Okay.
lights from the barn that I have, I
Okay.
think that it's bright
We'll
enough.
make that statement.
Mhm.
Yeah. Counselor, did you get that?
Give it to me again, 'cause I was
Okay,
reading
that
my
really,
notes.
the lights that are now on the barn, really, right?
Yeah,
They're
it's just,
there,
and
okay?
I won't bring in the
No, he's
commercial
not,
lighting.
no additional lighting, whatever lighting there is adequate for any needs he foresees at this point.
Alright, got it.
Okay? All right, the disturbed lands, you are doing a SWIP. Where are you with that?
Well, I picked this up today just to show you that there's progress, because Forrest's the guy that does, you have to have a topography plan, and the guy that does his topography, his hard drive was down or something, so it kind of put a delay, but he finished up the topography now gets sent over to Ed Reed, my engineer, and so I had this all done. So it's ready for the engineer to now prepare the SWIP plan, so it's in process.
I spoke to Ed, like I said at the last meeting, he did confirm that he's working on a SWIP for this project. And we all know Ed, he's a very good engineer, he'll get it done.
Okay, so that'll just be in progress.
Yeah,
Okay.
as soon as he can get it done, he said he's got a guy that, as soon as he got this map, he was gonna dedicate him to it, cause he knows that I wanna get it done, so he's gonna, hopefully get it done.
So the only real contours you have are in the back part of the property. I mean, it goes like from 400,
It's-
409 to 415. Yeah, but I mean, it's about 10-foot difference in elevation from here to about here.
It's
I mean,
fairly
the rest of
flat,
it- yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean,
I
it
have
doesn't
some
look like
berms
it's-
that I've
yeah,
put in,
yeah,
but
exactly.
it's not like,
Yeah, it's pretty flat.
Right, I mean, it's not, you're not getting really excessive runoff or anything like that.
no, I mean, I don't, if
I
anything,
mean, this is surprising that it's that much of a difference in
if
elevation.
anything, I've,
Yeah.
my drainage ditches, like, you know,
Mhm.
Has
I mean,
Ed
I don't know,
said
you
when-
can ask the neighbors, I
No, I
don't know
mean-
if they have any runoff issues from it, but I didn't
Well,
put
you'd
anything
have,
near
you'd,
that.
if they were, that you know, that's just, you're
Right.
definitely responsible for that.
This
you
is
know.
delineating here that there's wetland here, there's 100.
Jeff, how are those ponds fed?
Just groundwater.
Groundwater?
Just, yeah, there's,
In other words, are they dug down to water table?
they're wholly enclosed ponds, there's no outside inlets from
So
streams or anything.
it's just surface water, drainage water? Or are they spring fed?
No, there's surface water.
Okay, all right. We've got the parking lot, and we're going down through our list, we talked about, and one of the concerns we had was the dual use. Now, if you go to the traffic report, I don't know, were those distributed to you guys?
Yeah, we have.
They got it, okay. You had Gordon Stansberry do a traffic study.
Sorry.
And that's what Gordon does. And if we cut to the chase, basically he did an analysis. And he took data mid-August on that. And his conclusion basically was that everything is adequate as far as road, you know, Lakeport Road, and then getting people off, and having windows of opportunity fit into the numbers that people can get in and out of your venue without any real difficulty or impediment to traffic. Now, that's what he does, that's what he put his name on, and so you know, that part I would think you satisfied that. The question that we had, and again, it's pretty hypothetical, I think, is that and you don't know either until another year when hopefully we are more normal conditions, you can open your wild at a normal time in the spring, and then be able to open this venue at a normal time in the spring. If you have, you know, he took his studies in the middle of August, legit, that was okay. But you probably realize that you had greater traffic flows earlier because there were no other options. You didn't have a wild open. Okay, and your overflow, he states in there, you only have room for about 30 cars. I would think you have more, but
Yeah,
that's what that report, I believe that's what that
I
report
probably can
says.
fit,
Huh?
I can probably fit a couple hundred cars in there, that's not an accurate statement. I don't know, maybe he
Where are
only
you
saw,
talking 100 cars?
Yeah, where was that? I didn't
Safari?
see that.
The parking area in front
I
of the
believe,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
early
yeah,
on in
first
his
page.
analysis there.
On the first page?
maybe
Somewhere, I don't-
maybe
I
he
can't
only
tell you
saw
where.
30 cars over there, but that's
Large
not.
gravel area in front of the building that can be utilized for Q30, well, it says or more, I don't know.
Or more, is it?
Oh, 200.
Yeah. Up to
I mean,
200.
That's quite a
roughly,
range.
I mean,
But I would think that was pretty low, I thought that was low.
it can hold a lot more
Huh?
than that. It can hold a lot more than that.
Okay,
It
that's,
could probably hold 30 buses, but
Well, I don't know.
I've
But there
we
again-
stacked them in there.
there again, if you have a
We
normal
probably
spring, you
front
know, and
20
you
and it's
depend
not
on,
even
in
wrong.
month of May, early June, okay, schools start, you know, logging in, and they got the buses there, you got everything else. There is a potential that you could get to that parking. Now, You have a plan B?
This is just, I've never heard of the hypothetical. I mean, hypothetically, I could have 10,000 cars in a weekend if they decided to. Hypothetically, people
Well,
could
let's say
decide they
you
don't
ran,
like
no,
zoos.
you know yourself.
I mean, I like to go facts and data and true, to go on hypothesis doesn't make sense to me. To go on real world data, that's how I like to go by.
I totally
To
agree
say
with that, Jeff, but you realize.
last year we had a normal year,
Okay.
a normal busy year, and we did use the overflow parking lot without issue. The
But
back
that goes
of
too far.
the back of the barn where the safari comes through is still plenty of room, and so you could say that about any business. Technically, any restaurant, you could say hypothetically that their parking lot's
So
not
your,
big enough. But like I'm
your
saying,
answer to my question is, you'll never be saturated.
I don't believe we'll be saturated. I'm not saying I'm not swearing
You
to it
wouldn't
or
know,
saying.
we don't expect you to say you know that you would be at a given time.
Right,
But we're
but
saying,
why are we
does
going with
that
hypothetical?
does that potential exist?
Jeff,
The potential exists that you guys could have enough people show up to a board meeting for a public hearing that you don't have, that you need 6 times the size of this parking lot. There's always the potential for everything.
Right.
I mean, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I don't
Okay,
see where you're
alright.
going with this. It just
Yeah,
doesn't make
this
sense.
is a case in point. I drove by there Friday, noonish, something like that, and there were probably, my guess, probably 15, 20 cars in the safari parking area that overflowed for a while.
Right.
The thing that surprised me is that there were people actually tailgating there in the parking lot. So you figured there were at least 2, maybe 3, so one of them had to be taking up at least 2 additional parking spots. So here's the point I'm getting at, is that with those cars that were there, they, because there's no delineation as to where the second row should be, they all parked along the road, the second row, you're gonna get that meandering type of parking. So you say you could put more than 30 cars in there, but with the type of configuration that I saw at that point, you'd be hard pressed to get more than 30.
So for that parking lot to work, and we've talked about that in the past, is it kind of, there's no spots marked out. It's kind of an open configuration.
But the point I'm trying to get at
No,
is that
I get what you're saying.
under that circumstance, suddenly you get 10 more cars that come in there, and there's no parking spots. Where would they go?
So, like
You
I
know,
said, we
that-
could fit, so Friday would have been a day that was a busy zoo day,
Right.
but not an excessively busy zoo day. I don't think technically we officially used our overflow parking lot. Now, I'm not saying that people didn't leave the zoo, pull in there and have a picnic, because we don't allow outside food or drink in the zoo for the animal safety, different reasons. If we use the overflow parking lot, it is always staffed. So there's always parking attendants that go over there and physically park each car, so that a car doesn't take up 2 or 3 spots, just like our regular
Nothing
parking.
wrong with that.
No,
Like
I-
our
I-
regular
you-
parking
you
lot's the
understand
same
the point
way.
I was trying to make is that.
Right. When you drove by, it's a
situation
different.
that suddenly, it just gets boom, it gets bigger than what you anticipate, without really even considering what's happening.
I
It's just,
start-
all these cars come in there and they just randomly park, and you suddenly have an issue.
I start every day with 2 parking attendants, based on the possibility that it can be busy and that we could possibly use that. So they're trained that if our parking lot fills, or we get to a certain point where we know that we have a certain amount of spaces left, we then shift to our overflow parking lot. We go down there, a person's down there parking, we have it marked out.
Okay.
We have different spots that we stage. I'll stage vehicles there. And then we also continue to stay there. We have radios, and we communicate with each other how many spots have opened up. Because until you have, say, 20 or 30 spots open up in the regular parking lot, it makes no sense to stop sending them an overflow, because you're just gonna fill, and then it's gonna be a juggling game. So we go and park in our overflow until we know that, 1, the traffic flow slow down a little bit, and 2, that we have enough spots over at the zoo that they're not gonna become compacted and cause issues. So we might have 20 spots at the zoo that are open. We may still be parking at overflow until we have 35 spots. Then over the radio we say, okay, open that back up for parking. We'll park cars there. And so parking is something that we focus on, because being a businessman, I want as many cars to fit as they can. I want as many people to come. So we want to make sure that we park them, and every single car that comes in, we say, welcome to the wild, go through spiel, and then we say, please park there and keep it fairly close. And if they park far away, we go over and move and just politely ask them to move over a little bit, just so they don't leave enough room for like a Mini Cooper or something that no other cars can park in. So,
Okay? Alright, so really, that's kinda what we're saying, is that if push came to shove, what's your alternative to no space?
what's my alter? I don't know, I could park them in my property across the road, I mean, but that could
Well,
fail.
No, I mean, you really you can't, because that's not part of this.
Right, but
You can put your employees over there, I believe.
this is like something that like, it's hurting my brain to even stand here and think that we're focusing on this so much, because the school parking lot for a school event could run out of parking, and
Yeah, well,
what do they do? What do they,
well,
like
people,
you,
I guess.
I guess I don't see why
Okay.
we're choosing to
Would you
focus on
turn
something
people, I
that,
guess what I would say to you, Jeff, would you turn people away if you didn't have any parking in those lots?
if there was no possible chance of parking them somewhere, you'd have to turn them away.
Okay,
Okay,
that's
I mean, but I
that's
don't
good
want
enough,
to-
I mean, that's plan B, okay? Or plan C.
If it ever came to that.
If it ever
It
came
never
to
came
it,
to that, I mean,
Who knows,
that's what
you know?
that's what you're saying, okay?
Cause you're,
Alright,
You still got your parking.
that's the whole point of it.
yeah, I mean, like I said,
Alright, we
Well,
talked
we'll
about
get the
signage, what about signage? I think you said nothing, you really
no,
don't want anything,
no,
but do you
I have
want something
signage,
now or no?
no, there's been signage, it's on the,
Okay, what do you got?
so out front, I have a proposed 4x8 sign in the grass there.
Okay,
And I just took a picture of my other sign as a general, what I would model it off, different type of stone.
okay, that's
or
nice,
A nice stone pillars
sure.
with a 4x8, and I put 4x8, maybe I might shrink it down a little bit, no bigger than 4x8, just because I wanted that
Alright,
to work with,
No,
so.
that's all right. It's not, you gonna light that or put a spot on it or?
I don't have electricity out, so there's no plans of it now. If I do, it might be like a little solar powered light, but, there are no plans for it right now for lighting.
can we have a copy of that?
Absolutely. Then I have on the map, which would be marked right here, a proposed 12 by 12 sign on the fence, which would be just, this is far back off the road, so it's more of
12 by,
12 by 12. So I
And
mean,
that's higher than your fence, right?
the fence is 8 foot. So I mean, there's a little gap in between, so say there's a couple feet above the fence, just a nice square sign. And it's not gonna impact the road, it's so far off the road, it's basically just to add to the aesthetics of it. It's the wild, just our logo on it, just facing the road.
Well, you lost me, Jeff.
So this is your sign.
This is the fence that's facing the road.
Yes, this is just drive.
So it's 12 feet above the fence?
I mean, not specifically, this is 12 feet, so 12, I put on that 12 feet.
12 wide.
And 12 high. So I would do like 6 by 6s and just mount it there. And the only people that would really see it
People
are in
driving
my
in.
parking lot when you're driving straight in.
Yeah.
It's not like it's so far off the road, it's not gonna impact the traffic,
Right,
anything
right,
like
right.
that.
It's not gonna be taller
It's
than
more
the
of
building there,
aesthetically
right?
just to look. No, it's just right there. And it's not facing either of the neighbors' houses, so they have to look at it. It's basically just there.
Yeah, it's out of the way enough.
Okay?
It's tucked in.
Alright,
So would you
okay,
like that?
yeah, want that too. Alright, now we'll go back to something we've said over and over, and again, timing, it just has to be done at some point. Here, that we need copies of all your current permits.
You have a
USDA.
copy of my USDA. I've given that to you numerous times.
We have the current one? I thought you said it ran out and it
Well, I
wasn't-
gave you the most recent copy that I have.
Right, but we want the one that, we want on file always the current one.
Well, I want it on file too, but like I told you,
You can't get it, but
right now.
that's what we're telling you to do, okay? At some point, we need copies of current permits. Now, in the DEC, when you have exotic animals, or animals that, like tigers and things, that are, potentially injurious to humans, that's through DEC, is it not?
The ultimate governing body is the United States Department of Agriculture. The DEC on a state level regulates it also, so they're both.
But they, for that particular entity, exotic animals, they do issue a permit, do they not?
I do get a permit from DEC.
And you
but my
have to have
overall
one for every
governing-
species of animals?
It's not
It's
every species, it's different. Some species they choose a permit for, some they don't.
Okay,
You may need a permit for a black-backed jackal, but you may not for a Syrian bear. It's the DEC, some permits, some they don't. It's New York State, some things make sense, a lot of it doesn't. So, but there are permits for certain species I have. Certain species I have, you can have with a USDA permit. You can't own it the general public, but you don't need a New York State permit, so it's a complex system of permits.
okay. And you
But
can
the
do it because you're an
ultimate-
exhibitor, you have, that's
I'm a
what you got from the USDA, right?
Class C USDA licensed exhibitor,
That's what you are, and that enables you to do what you're doing with those animals,
absolutely.
right?
And they are
Okay.
the ones that inspect my protocols, my safety plans, my diets, veterinary care, fencing, housing, animal welfare, public safety, every aspect of it.
Okay.
Are those annual permits?
They're yearly, and the inspection is random, you don't know when they're gonna show up.
I'll throw this out to the board, cause I was thinking about that a little bit. Would it be advantageous for the town to have an inventory of the exotic or dangerous species that you own?
Why are we circumventing this? The state and the federal government already have a list of the animals and species. And
But
my list is changing.
we're gonna
I mean,
be,
how many, I
the town is
understand.
gonna be, the only reason I'm saying that, and I'm just throwing it out to the board here, is the only reason I'm saying that is if there is something that is concerning to the public we're gonna be the worst ones to get a call. If we don't have any knowledge,
So if
that
we had
those-
copies of that information, we
So-
have that now.
pardon?
If we
I
have the
can
right
give you my
copies.
permits.
Yeah, but some of them we don't have.
I mean, if you wanna hire an
doesn't
animal
need permit.
control officer that can
I
actually
would-
handle more than a Yorkshire Terrier, then I
Pardon?
guess that makes sense, but I don't know why you're trying to govern or regulate the species when New York State's already
No,
doing
we're
it.
not trying to regulate anything.
But I'm
No.
saying, I'm a zoo. I have a safari, I work with other zoos, the animals are constantly changing. I'm already working with USDA, with DEC when I change species. You're adding a whole nother layer with, the zoo's already there. Like, we've already gone through this with the zoo, now
We're not dealing with a zoo.
So now you're trying to say, okay, for the safari, you need to give us a list, but the zoo, you're all set. Like, it
Well,
doesn't,
Go ahead.
I mean,
John.
we're
I
right.
understand the planning board's concern, but I will say, legal advice only, and it's only advice, you
Okay.
do what you want, that my position is always, that that's a matter that's taken care of by a federal authority or a state authority. If
Okay.
the public has an issue with it, they can pick up the phone and call the federal authority, the state authority, and say, I'm concerned about X, Y, or Z. My personal opinion as an attorney for municipal boards is let those agencies deal with that, and we'll deal
Okay.
with all the aspects of citing the use.
I thought
The only thing I
that,
was gonna ask Mr.
that I was
Taylor-
going down the road, and just let me finish that.
Yeah.
I was going down the road that anything that would fall in that category would have a specific permit anyway.
Well,
Now I'm kinda hearing that isn't necessarily the case.
Yeah.
And I just thought, well, that's just a whole.
And I don't think,
that's a
I don't think
whole-
it's an issue to at least have a copy of the current permits in place, at the town. However, the only question I do have is are the permits that Mr. Taylor gets, are they specific to a particular location for the animals that are being exhibited? So is it?
And I've seen this question coming for a while because it's been something that every time I talk to Frank focuses on, that the permits, where the permits. And I know you're looking for the address. My USDA agent inspects both properties. She inspects where I have my animals. If I move goats to my farm on New Boston Road, she inspects the goat holding. She inspects it. So I'm licensed personally. If we wanna get down to calling the USDA and saying, you're gonna tell them, well, you need to list all the then I guess you can call the federal government, and tell them for your town, you want them to list each.
And we're just
individual
asking a
property.
question, that's
No,
all.
I know, no, I'm just saying, it
That's
keeps
all.
coming up, and that's where I've been kinda confused, is I've been
I'm looking
good
at
on
it-
permits for 10
For a
years
member
now.
of the- For a member of the community, I'm thinking of it as a safety concern, in the sense that in the case of an emergency, and God forbid, one of the animals got out or something of that nature, wouldn't it be in the public's interest to have an idea of what we're actually dealing with? You know, rather than having some kind of an emergency situation occur, and suddenly we say, oh, well, we didn't know that there's gonna be half a dozen tigers in there, or something of that nature, that, you know, yes, we can get in touch with the federal government to find out, but how long is that, something like that gonna happen if we need an emergency?
I am
response?
mandated by the state. If
No,
there's-
you understand what
if there's
I'm not
a-
trying
yeah,
to be
no, I'm-
obnoxious about it, I'm
No,
just
I'm
trying to
just-
say, in an emergency case,
We're-
how are we gonna handle it?
We're back, like, and I'm not, we're hypothetical, but if I have an animal escape, I have to instantly notify the New York State DEC authority. It's part of my licensing, I can get in trouble, it's part of the regulations. You have to immediately notify them, and then the DEC will come in and control the situation immediately.
Okay.
That's part of, with the state overseeing it. And
Paul's question is a fair question, however, what I would say is that if this was a mining operation, that we as a board don't go into the mining operation, try to figure out what's safe and what's not safe. We leave that to the state
Right.
who regulate it. So, but I do appreciate this is a very unique
Right.
use occurring nearby residential properties. I think the planning board's concerns are legitimate, and specific, but I also think that there are agencies, as Mr. Taylor said, that are out there to deal with it, and there's an area for the public to express its concern. I'd prefer it not be with a planning board, because we don't have a lot of experience in
Yeah,
what's
no,
safe or what's
expertise.
not safe.
But I think that's where
Zoo or
Joyce
safari.
we're trying to get at what are the oversights?
Yeah.
What they're having, not knowing really anything about that. And you're telling, you're giving us your
It's a fair part of the
information.
conversation.
Sure,
We're
and
learning about
that's
how
what
it
we're,
works.
that's what we're
fine.
trying to do.
I would say that I've had roughly maybe 8 straight annual inspections with no inspections, or no citations, a clean inspection, basically, which they're saying.
So they do annually,
They can do it,
or the
They
rate?
just-
they can do it twice a year, they can do it they can do it once a year. They're required to do it at least once a year, but,
Okay, okay.
I'm more of a higher scale facility, so my chances of them being there more is more because the public's there.
Right.
We're
Okay.
known for being one of the
No, I
nicest
think
private facilities
I
in the
think
country.
that's fair to note that was explored.
Sure.
And these are these are our opinions or findings at this point in time.
We'd be remiss not to ask these
That's
questions,
right.
but now that we have answers,
Yeah.
now we can
I'm
continue on.
satisfied, I
Okay.
gave you a reasonable answer.
Mhm.
All right, and then when we get this map cleaned up, we get all the stuff on it that we talked about. Now we gotta get this map to the North Chenango Fire Department.
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
And again, we cannot mandate to you that they can come on your property. That's,
Oh, no.
that's your call,
I
but,
mean, I support them.
but they certainly can have access to this map, which would be a public document.
They've been never told they can't come on the property. I'm more than.
Yeah, I don't know what he was going.
I appreciate that what they do.
Yeah. Well, you could-
My thing was I had the first initial letter written up by a Chenango fireman, that has the knowledge, I think he touched on that, is North Chenango is a fire department, yes, in my jurisdiction, but Bridgeport and Chenango also respond. They work together. It's
Right.
still a town of Sullivan fire department. So if they can't have guys come in, the village, they come in.
So
So
from
to say it's-
Canastota, Manatee.
Well, but I mean,
Yeah.
I guess we're back to hypothetical, but the
Yeah.
town of Sullivan, its fire department is one fire department, correct? I mean, is that correct?
Well, it's all under one umbrella.
It's one umbrella. The town of Sullivan has different stations to where Terry Mann is the fire chief of Chittenango. I got a letter from him. I had him go through it, inspect it, and it's not a matter of me knowing him. It was a matter of me trying to go out of my way to get you guys stuff for that
But
first meeting.
we also have to deal with local, so.
They
but
are
we
local.
hear your
I
argument.
mean, they could be the first ones to respond, so why isn't the letter from him
because he didn't
Valid.
have a map or anything to evaluate.
Well, and
Well, he
my
had the
concern was
property of it, he drove the entire property, which is better than a map.
He went, the thing that caught my eye, and I hadn't seen it till that night, was he went, at the very end, he went out of his way to say, hey, please, no, this is not our department's, basically, their jurisdiction, it's this department. And all he said was, let's get a letter from the other.
Well, he was just giving his
department.
professional opinion, I think that
That's
just
fine.
noting that was a professional thing, but in his professional opinion of experience, he didn't see any issues, and we drove through the entire property.
And probably you'll have none, and you may have none this way too.
Exactly.
Oh,
Okay, all right, so we need to get that. Now, I've kind of gone down through the punch list that we have had in the past. Is there, board people, is there something else that we need to address?
I think we covered
I
that.
think we got it.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Everybody comfortable with that?
Yep.
Counselor, we have a void here that we have not explored.
I'm looking through all, I've got a lot of notes, I'm looking through them, I think, Frank, your outline basically hit everything we've been talking about all along, and we've asked the right questions, and we've got answers either presented or coming, so I think you're in good shape for what we're trying to accomplish tonight.
Okay, let me make this statement, Jeff. All right, you have given us hard copy of various things that we asked for. They're here. And we've noted that, I think, throughout the evening here, that we have. We still need a SWIP, okay? That has to be done by professional people, et cetera, et cetera.
and I know
What-
he's talked to the town engineer also, so he's aware of it, Taylor, I believe is the name.
Taylor Voltaire.
Yeah, my
Taylor
engineer has
did,
been in
okay.
contact with
I
him.
called Taylor and asked him to return. you guys.
Okay, so that issue is addressed. We got a traffic ban, we'll forward these things in their entirety, despite whatever we say as a commentary to them. Town board will get everything we have, everything that we have along the line as addendums to our report, okay? Now, if there's certain things on here that, you don't choose to do, I'm certainly not encouraging you to take that path, but if you do, that is a statement in itself, and we reflect that. We ask for this, and if you didn't choose to do it, that'll still be noted, okay? Along the line. But I think other than that, we've pretty much gone as far as we're gonna go. And so I would kind of, I guess with a nod of the head rather than a vote, it's a consensus here that we've done our due diligence to explore as many things as we had, asked questions, hopefully all the necessary questions that we've needed to ask. Now, having said all that, this goes to the town board. They are the ones that have the hearing. They're the ones that, they can answer, they can interject other topics. They're not
have their own
tied to
questions.
anything necessarily that we do. They are not tied to any comments that we make, but that's our job and that's what we're
And
gonna
this
do.
is the last time we did this for Mr. Taylor, we did a positive recommendation, we made a recommendation for an approval, subject to the discussions that we had, and we incorporated that into a letter that you guys authorized Frank to review and sign and get on to the town board. So that's how you did it the last time. Letter of recommendation, or you could recommend don't approve it, or you could recommend approve it. It's all a recommendation about granting a PDD, and the things that you saw and the things that you wanted to see or were an idea that the town board then runs with. Because you're not imposing anything technically, you're just saying, this is what we think. What do you wanna do, town board?
So do I get a positive?
That's up to these guys, whether they give a positive
This
recommendation.
is your draft, and it's essentially.
That was an early draft.
That was a
No,
real early
This was
one.
dated September 8th.
Well, I had it printed out again.
Oh, okay, but so that's the same.
It doesn't have what we talked, it doesn't have some of the things we talked about tonight.
Okay, that's what I was looking at.
But it is a potential positive recommendation to approve a PDD, subject to comments that you guys have played out
With-
here tonight.
With any mitigations and stuff that we've thrown up?
And it's a traffic study, I haven't had a chance to read
That's
the
correct.
whole
And I
thing.
hadn't
but it-
seen that before this draft had been done, you know, I actually did this
according
draft
to-
like 2 months ago, so.
Yeah, according to the conclusions, it's saying that there's really no impact and there's
Yeah.
nothing that needs to be.
And that would be, Paul, that would be referenced in this final letter, it's that here's the traffic
Okay.
study, the traffic study's conclusion is X, Y, or Z, the SWIP is being prepared, blah, 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 all those things that you talked
Okay.
about tonight would end up.
And
in
what you
the
have there,
recommendation
and you
letter.
can have, the full copy is about 20 pages.
Mhm.
But after the 6th page, it's a bunch of addendums. And it's
Right.
not, it's the technical, his data.
You gave the full copy.
Oh, you
This
did?
is,
Oh, okay.
This is, yeah, I mean, let's look.
Okay, I
at the
thought you only gave me
yeah.
the first 6.
No,
Okay.
no, no.
All right,
This
we
is
got
a
it all.
draft, yeah, I'm working on it.
And again, you know, we can sit here and you can look at that and adjust it a little bit.
So you're looking for a consensus from, the 4 board members tonight, you're looking for a consensus from the board as to a potential positive recommendation for a zone change, prepared into a letter incorporating the remarks that you folks have made over the last 2, I guess this is our 3rd meeting on this thing. And then ultimately Frank would sign the letter upon completion. It could be circulated ahead of time so
Yeah,
you can
I
see
would,
it.
certainly would.
Which is circulated here, but we gotta add in the stuff that we just talked about tonight.
Gotta be cleaned up.
Gotta be cleaned up.
And this is totally, what we're doing here is totally separate from the wild.
Oh, yeah,
That's correct.
this is not the zoo, this is only
And-
safari and a PDD for
We've
the
addressed
safari.
no
Is
issues in a
there,
while.
is there any thought or potential of merging the 2 zones? Or is there any possibility that it can happen or it can't happen because they're not
He has a
contiguous?
physical barrier.
There's physical.
He has a
barrier, okay.
physical barrier between the 2.
Okay.
Without being contiguous properties, I don't think that can be done.
Okay.
Okay? What's your sentiment?
I'm okay if we proceed with a letter saying that.
I'm good with
I
it.
feel
He's
we
been,
presented the information we've looked
Right.
for, so.
Good, thank you, handled it, so.
Okay,
we have-
that's what you got.
Okay, that's a consensus, and I'll follow up with Frank, but I'll circulate everything to all 5 of you guys, so you can see it, what's going on with it. And then once it gets signed, then Mr. Taylor travels to the town board where the local law already prepared some time ago, gets introduced, and then gets scheduled for a public hearing. I gotta remember if we did a county referral, I honestly can't remember if we did a county referral.
I believe you did,
Okay, thank you.
okay? I'm not in possession of
Yeah,
the,
well, I've got a whole big thick file.
I'm
so
not
I'll
in
look-
possession of the updated referral.
Yeah, I'll have to look through, I got a lot of stuff here. And then Phil's gonna send me everything new that came out, so I can do what you said, Frank, which is do it.
Well, what we'll do is,
Attachments
what we'll
and
do is we'll go through the files, we'll go through the files and make sure that everything, what, you know, everything's in the right pile.
Okay,
Mhm.
that's good.
We'll do that. Okay?
Anything else, so just change the maps and get that to
Change,
you.
yeah, no,
And go from there.
Yep.
Well, I have to say, I appreciate you guys' time, I know it's been contentious going back and forth, but I do appreciate you guys, what you do for the town and.
Get as many dimensions on there as you can. That's right, okay.
What's that? Yeah.
The board wants to see those. Right.
What's that?
Put as many dimensions on.
and I get that, I mean,
That's one
that
thing.
needs to be done like
Yeah,
ASAP.
I'll try to meet with Forrest in the next couple
Yeah,
of days
fair
and
enough.
have him.
Yeah,
put-
get that cleaned up, and as soon as Forrest gives us a draft, in fact, we'll send it to the fire, let us do that, okay? Give
Well, I'm
us,
working with him already, so I don't want, because I wanna go, he actually came to a zoo the other day, and I wasn't sure whether it was a good, positive note or a negative note, I don't know. And he talked to me about the zoo, so I'm working with him, we're going through a bunch of stuff at the zoo also, just safety planning and stuff, so.
okay, but we need, the communication eventually needs to be from the fire department to the town.
Right.
And we need to hear that, I mean, he can tell you that, and you can tell him. They're gonna come after you for a written report or a statement from that, cause that's what we'll reference in this, is a written statement by the chief operating officer, or however we frame that for this
So, but
particular fire.
I can contact him,
Oh,
right,
sure.
to have him go do
Oh,
a
yeah.
ride through, so
Yeah.
that he's
Yeah.
prepared
Yeah.
to write a letter if you guys request it, you know?
Yep, he's gotta respond, but once he gets that site plan, once he gets the updated site plan, he's gotta reference that.
So you guys need this, or is this yours?
Oh, we need one, yeah, we need one of the
I
plans.
think,
We
Not the
got
one you
two,
marked
we,
up. I need
we,
one of them.
no,
for
what
my
Jeff
record.
had was what Jeff had, and what you see
this
out here, I
is-
can't,
this
they're
is
in my
yours.
file.
Yeah, these are yours.
Yeah.
I just need to take one back so I can finish this letter.
This is that traffic.
This is the
report,
zoo
I'm sure.
itself.
I got
Right in
one.
front of
Yeah,
it.
that came from Frank, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I've got
that's
one.
not
It's
even
provided,
the-
it's the only one. But the light-
I thought this is one you had
You know
up
what,
there.
you're right. Do you have your own?
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, thanks.
that's-
kind of off topic as far as the zoo, we talked last spring about the lighting at the zoo. With our fall events coming up, we haven't had a chance to actually wire the lighting in. And we're gonna, when we close for during the week, which is next week, we're gonna get the lighting all set. And is there a possibility of having a couple of you or someone come down and take a look
Sure.
at it before our first
Yeah.
night event in October? And I let the keys know too. I want them to come over and make sure, look, and give me input to
We
make sure
talked
it's not
about
too
that
long to their.
a couple months ago, I think we'd like to do that.
Yeah, I just have, with everything going on, but our first night event's the first Friday of October, so I'd like to, before then I can let
Well,
you know.
next meeting will start, it'll be dark out, so.
But the next
But,
meeting will
it's
be
gonna be
after.
afterwards, we'll have to do what Dr.
Right,
Woods
but I'm
has
just
to
saying,
do.
it's gonna be.
So I
We
can-
can
I'll
get
just-
people together to do it.
I'll let you know.
What are you thinking, Jeff?
Huh?
How long do you think?
I'm hoping that within the next, well, it's gotta be the next 2 weeks or so.
2 weeks, gotta be,
Yeah,
right?
I'm gonna try to get everything, cause we've gotta
Yeah.
dig in the
Yeah.
parking lot. Okay.
Halloween
Let's
event?
try to,
Yeah.
for me, later in the month, I'm gonna be tied up on the weekends.
Perfect, we'll
If
make
we
it
can do
later in the month.
During midweek is
No,
fine
I'm just
with me.
kidding.
Oh,
Yep.
me call.
Yeah,
Alright.
we can handle it, I mean, we're all ready.
Okay.
Alright?
Yep,
Okay,
good job.
Okay.
that meeting is, we have we need to adjourn this meeting.
Motion.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Frank.
Motion made by Paul, seconded by John. Okay,
What'd you vote on?